I'm Sherry Maltby. I'm 78 years old, live in Williams, California. I raise rice. I've raised purebred Charolais cattle. I've run a commercial feedlot and raise different other grain crops.
My name is Sherry Maltby, and I'm involved with Broken Box Ranch, which my husband started, and I'm the administrator for our business. So the majority of my time is spent in the office and administering for our employees, our investments, our equipment, our cattle, tracking our customers. And in the last few years, I've taken on my father's ranch down in Stanislaus County. So now we are in the almond business as well. And that's been a big learning curve for me. But I'm proud to be handling it and going forward with that.
I was first involved with farming in all of my life because I was raised on a farm. I was born here in Colusa County, and my parents moved here in the late 30s and acquired some property to farm rice with. We developed that ranch, and then I was born in 44, so we went on with the rice, but always had cattle. And my dad bought a ranch up in Klamath Falls that was on the Klamath River. And so we ran that ranch, and I went to Chico State, majored in animal husbandry, and worked the cattle ranch mainly while helping with the rice ranch. But then when my father died in '68, then I ran both of them. And so we have run cattle, and I met Sherry down in Oakdale when I moved from Alturas, and ran a bull testing center down there, and an embryo and semen center. And then we moved back to Williams and developed the feedlot as well as the purebred cattle, commercial cattle, and the rice.
I grew up in Stanislaus County, and I am a fifth generation born and raised in that county. And my family goes back to farming from the time they came here. So even today, I continue to farm my father's ranch, and my grandkids are now seventh generation to be part of that farming operation in Stanislaus County.
My dad was raised out in the Shandon country and down around Paso Robles. And so his father passed away when he was in the fourth grade, so he had to quit school and go to work for the Jack Ranch, which was a huge operation in the Central Valley. And so he was around livestock and took care of the horses for the teams that did the harvesting, and then moved into construction. But the Depression wiped him out in Santa Monica, and so he worked as a foreman on a road construction crew. Met my mother in Washington, and then they got married. And 1937, then he purchased a property in Colusa County, and went on to develop the rice ranch and also cattle. And then in the 50s, bought a ranch in Klamath Falls on the Klamath River, and developed that into irrigated pasture where we ran the cattle. I sold the ranches, the one in Klamath Falls, after my dad died in '68, and I moved to Alturas and ran the cattle there. And then when my dad passed away, then I ran both of them. And then I sold the ranch in Alturas and moved to Oakdale, California, and that's where I met Sherry. And we ran the Bull Test Center, Embryo Semen Center. The reason for Family Water Alliance in the start, I wasn't at the very, very first of it, but close. And Sherry also worked in the office, volunteering her time to do a lot of the bookwork and secretarial or anything that needed to be done, cooking for our fundraisers and this type of thing. But Family Water Alliance was formed to try to secure our rights of the water and ability to farm. And we just have evolved into a much larger group now that is recognized throughout the West. Show me an organization that has saved more fish than Family Water Alliance by putting in the screens. Just show me one. Not even close. You won't find it.
Our crop is now completely almonds. When I was growing up, my dad was a hay farmer, row crops, and over the years converted into orchards and vineyards. We've since removed the vineyards and now just concentrate on the one crop, which is almonds. The vineyards disappeared because the grape market disappeared for Central Valley grapes. They weren't particularly of high quality, and the bottom dropped out of the market a number of years ago. There were no contracts to be had, and the last year, which was about 3 years ago, we didn't even get to sell one crop of Cabernets was left on the vine, so the handwriting was kind of on the wall, and the grapes were kind of at the end of their life. So we decided to just concentrate in the almond industry. And now those fields have all been replanted. We're really proud that we grow almonds. I know a lot of people think there's a lot of water used, and there is a lot of water used, but we're always looking for ways to be water conservative and have our ground hold more water. We've developed, cover cropping. We're using wells as well as surface water from our district. We now have a big holding pond. About 3 years ago, we were committed to installing drip irrigation on our 800 acres of almonds. And so we've gone from flooding fields into putting in micro drip irrigation at each tree, so we can minutely manage the amount of water that goes to each tree. We're trying not to water the weeds and promote those growths, and also we can put in our nutrients right to each tree. So we feel like it's a real win situation for us. We feel that we will produce more almonds with less water. And we also don't want to lose the fact that we are really a carbon neutral product out there. We plant thousands of trees every year, and those orchards are good for 25 to 30 years. I'm proud to say it's a food staple, and the world wants our product.
The almond industry is the biggest ag income of the state of California. Not milk, not rice, not cotton, not grapes. It's almonds, okay? So, my friends asked me, what do you raise in California? I said, I can't tell you, but I can tell you what we can't raise, and that's a much shorter list.
You use a lot of water on your rice crop. Can you tell us a little bit about why?
The water usage is not wasted. Any water that comes into a rice field either percolates into the ground to recharge the groundwater, which is then used not only for farming, but as wells for cities and private homes. We look at rice as a crop that is essential to the world population for nutrition. Rice and wheat are the two main grain crops of the world. Without it, we starve. So one of the questions I always ask my friends in the South when they say, well, gee, we need your water to, do our lawns and to fill our pools and have our water parks. I'd say, you don't need that pool, but I need that water to feed you. And without water, California goes away agriculturally. So if you think that your food just comes from a supermarket, you're wrong. It has to come out of a field, and the field has to be watered. And that is, you have to have water and food to survive. And we think it's essential that people understand that the rice doesn't use nearly what we used to use. The new practices we have of holding our water and not letting it go into the drain, which, by the way, ends up back in the Sacramento River to be shipped south. And you people are the second and third or fourth or fifth user of that water by the time it gets to you. So you have to determine what's important in life, and you still have to eat and drink. Desal is desalinization. It is actually taking the salt out of water and other pollutants. Salt can then be sold. It's an international product. It's all and used all over the world. You can't live without salt. So therefore, the determination has to be, are you going to worry about somebody not having a place to surf, or are you going to worry about producing enough water to supply 13 million people with drinking water? The desalinization projects around the world are numerous, and the United States is so far behind the other industrialized nations. Most of Israel's farm water comes from desal. Saudi Arabia and the rest of the desert countries have desalinization in mass amounts. There would be no water shortage if the coastline of California from San Francisco to San Diego were to be on desalinization. We wouldn't be having this conversation. Everybody says, oh, it's too expensive. What's too expensive? Look at the price of your food now. Why do you think that's happening? Do you think it's just because of the politics alone? It's not. It's a simple fact that there is no water. Your lettuce needs the water. California raises, 85% of the lettuce for the United States. So if you don't have an adequate supply of water, you are not going to get lettuce or tomatoes or any other vegetable crop. So you have to determine what's important. And desal, to me, is one of the main ways of solving our water problem, even as much as storage, if not more, in my view. They say it's too expensive, but I don't believe that, because the desal plant that they had in Southern California that was developed now costs $5 a person, a household, a month extra on their water bill. And they're producing 1 million gallons a day. We were very excited that Governor Newsom was this spring backing the desalinization program and was touting how much that we needed it, which we agreed with. Mm-hmm. But then his commission that he controls went 5-0 against the project. And not for real scientific reasons. It's just that wasn't a pleasant sight, or it wasn't, the surfers didn't have a place to surf in that one particular part. We have to find a way to do this. And if you do not incorporate desalinization in our water systems, where are we going to get water? Because you won't let us dam any rivers. And it's the simplest thing to do. Is it as initial cost? Yes, everything does. Look at your car batteries on the electric situation. You just have to understand that without water, there's no food. If you're not going to let us put in more storage, we're trying to put in a site's dam, here in Colusa County. It was first conceived in World War II and was ready to be built, but wasn't. And one of the things I think needs to be on all of these, the Coastal Commission, you have to have all people represented that work with the water. Agriculture has to be on a commercial, on the committee. If you don't start listening to the people who do the programs or do the food, how are you going to make any policies? If you want us to succeed and if you want relatively inexpensive food, then you better listen up and you better get us involved. The one thing we need to really expound on throughout the agriculture community is getting to talk. Quit talking to yourself. You have to get with the people in the Bay Area. You have to get with the people in LA. You have to get with the people in San Diego. You have to get with the environmentalists. We have more in common with the environmentalists than the press wants you to believe. Forget what Republican or Democrat or Independent or Green Party you're from. Doesn't make any difference. We all drink the same water. If we get together with the people that we do not agree with and come to some common ground, and then as a group go in after they educated us and we educating them, then you have to sit down and come up with the common things that you're going to do, and then go to the government. Keep the government out of it as much as you can until you have to talk to them because of the regulations that they're going to force upon you. And don't let them split us, because that's what they're doing. Both parties. Let's forget this part over here and forget this part over here. Let's focus on this part right here. How are we going to save the fish in the Sacramento River? Do we get beyond the fact that you don't have to release water from Shasta every day at a certain calculated rate, because it doesn't work? The fish don't know the calculation. They know that there's no water coming out. They won't come up the river. They can live out in the ocean 5-6 years or more and then still migrate and keep the population levels up. Proof? It was before the dams, folks. Before the dams are there, you talk about all these great fish. We want to go back to the old days. Fine. Then don't try to trick the fish and then leave them to come up the river, lay their eggs, and then cut the water off from them because there's no water because of the drought. And your whole fish population is, and that year is gone because the temperature rises to high and the eggs disintegrate. So if you don't get together and talk, we're in trouble. Reach out. There are many different organizations in agriculture: Farm Bureau, California Cattlemen, the California Dairymen, the California Feeders, the avocado growers, the almond growers. I could go on for 15 minutes of the different organizations that would love to get together with a group of you and say, come see us.
The biggest change I've seen in agriculture in my lifetime has to be technology. We've gone from, I grew up on a small cattle ranch, and you saddled your horse and you gathered and you watched the butcher in the field, and then we moved forward into other technology. I remember when we got our first fax machine, our first Apple II computer would take hours to run calculations. We could go to town and have lunch, come back, and my reports would be finally printed out on our bull test. So now in today's world, we can run it with our telephones and our GPS and our tractors and airplanes that fly on our rice. We quite often tell young people who want to be in the cattle business, you got to know a lot more than how to doctor a calf and ride a horse. You better come to us with now college education and know how to work numbers, computers, track your animals, your feed, do conversions. It's a whole different world out there. quite often I say to Jerry, you farm out of a briefcase, these days, and now we don't even say that anymore. Now you farm out of an iPhone. And so it's a different world.
It's amazing to me on the phone situation. Before we had them, we had CB radios. And so, but CB radio, you can only talk so long on that. Pretty well, you're done. And so then we got a bag phone that weighed about 10 pounds, and you threw that in the pickup and out you went. But you had to get to a certain spot because you didn't have any reception. And now we have a phone that is more powerful than the Apple IIe computer that I used in the 80s. Technology has just leapfrogged in agriculture. We save so much on better machinery through our chemicals that we have to put on to control the diseases and the pests so you can have good, safe food. And we don't use near as much as we used to. We don't use near as much water. We don't use near as much anything because we've learned how to fine-tune our operations. It's amazing where we're going from here. I think the automation, the tractor drivers that we can't hire today, well, there won't be any tractor. In 10 years, there'll be a guy sitting around with a computer running a 1,000-acre operation and not a man on them. And just have a guy to make sure that when it breaks down, he can fix the electronics. When they come out to fix a tractor today, first thing he does is pulls out a briefcase and plugs into the side like you do your car to see what's wrong. We can't fix a lot of our stuff anymore because they've made it way, way too complicated, which raises the cost. If I can fix it, nobody pays me $150 an hour to come out and fix that tractor, and that's what we pay. So just for labor, not the parts, which we can't get. And so it just goes on and on and on. I think that we sometimes try to add too much to our technology when the old adage, like my dad and many of his generation said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And sometimes this is the way. We have to keep things a lot simpler than we've got them now, because one chip goes out and you're done. A rice harvester today costs you $750,000. If one chip goes out, you're done. And it might take that guy an hour to get there because I can't put it in. And they won't, some of the machinery companies won't let you have the codes to run it yourself, so you have to hire their people to come out and fix your equipment. When in the old days, and I don't mean 100 years ago, I'm talking 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I could go out and fix the harvester. It broke, I just went and got the part and fixed it. Or my guys who worked for me did. Those days are gone. By doing that, you've added layers and layers and layers of more cost. And that's why I think these trade schools are so important for the young people of today. I think there's more important than college is, in the sense for the masses. Not everybody's going to go to Harvard. Not everybody's going to graduate from Stanford, let alone get in and pay $100,000 a year to have the privilege of doing so. And get out and can't get a job other than at McDonald's because there are either too many of you, and yet we can't find a plumber. You can't find a guy to go in and work at these auto shops. You can't find anybody to work in agriculture to set up to be a welder and many of the things that we used to take in school. But the trade schools, we see more of them, and I really am glad that part of it is starting to come to the surface.
I think one of the biggest threats to our next generation of farmers is something that I've personally just experienced, and it's with the death tax. My dad had worked his whole life, had paid taxes, and he wasn't one to grumble about paying his fair share of taxes. And the government took 40% of the wealth that he had accumulated over the years. We found out that the IRS doesn't care if you have cash to pay your portion of the death tax or not. If you don't, you'll be forced into selling your family ranch just to satisfy your debt. And that's not a pleasant scenario, especially for those of us who want to continue in family farming.
We need to abolish the death tax. Who's going to use that money to a more efficient purpose? The government or private industry? I think that's an easy decision to make. They say, oh, well, you're just going to perpetuate the wealthy and they're getting wealthier. Well, in the 100 years ago, probably so. I'd go along with that. Not now. Because somebody can make a program or a chip or some computer deal and be worth $1 billion, or develop a monetary system of Bitcoin and such, and lose $60 billion in a day. The exemption now is around, I think, 11 million, something like that. And everybody says, oh my God, $11 million, that's just nothing. That $11 million, when your ranch is appraised for $15,000 an acre, or $40,000 an acre, or $50,000 an acre, and I use the 1,000 acres. Nobody has that kind of money sitting in a bank. You're either going to have to sell stock or you're going to sell the ranch. And everybody said, well, take a loan out against it. I already got a loan against it. You know, I don't know many farmers that own everything free and clear. There's a few, but not many.
Planning going forward, it's not easy to think how you'll continue on with these large land holdings, which you need in order to make a living. And we employ people and we're producing food, and it's not going to be easy to keep it going at these rates of taxation. And what's happening to our family farms. These are not large corporations. These are family farms, and they're suffering because of it.
Everybody says, well, you're rich. You've got 1,000 acres, and it's worth $15,000 an acre. Okay. That's dirt. You won't take dirt. I can't give you a little dirt to pay my taxes with. You want money. That means I have to sell the ranch. Therefore, if I have to sell the ranch, I can't be efficient at doing what I do because it takes so many acres for me to do it. And it's just not fair. We've paid taxes all our lives. Our parents paid taxes all our lives to make sure we had that ground. Con.
I think today it's really tough for young farmers to get into farming. There's lots of ways for them to be involved in agriculture through jobs and careers in many different places, you know, being a vet or being a PCA or working for a trade organization. But it's not easy. We all need to help these young people that want to come back to the family farm or get into farming. We need to help them do that.
Trying to get financing for the young farmer today, it's next to impossible.
In Modesto, that ground's going for $50,000 an acre.
To buy it?
To buy it.
But
Yeah.
40,000, it doesn't have any trees on it. Bare ground.
Well, my neighbors just sold with $50,000 an acre and it's old trees. Yeah, no, it's crazy.
$10,000 an acre to put them in.
To put it in and get you going and for the next 5 years till you've got income back. It's not an easy business to get into and to be part of. But today, really, agriculture offers a lot of jobs for people. And we see young people, thank goodness, coming into ag in lots of different ways now.
FFA,
and lots of
4-H,
young women, which are really fabulous.
Yeah.
We see the young women coming into the barns, you know, our trade organizations. I'm thrilled when I see those young women.
You know, the women are such a critical part of agriculture. The vets that were coming out of Davis now, the majority of them are women. And they're good vets. And if you think veterinary is an easy job on a 2,000-pound bull, think again. But they're good at it. They're tough, but they've got the technique and they've got the personality for it, and it's not all just sitting behind a desk. She's gone and branded calves with me and worked them, give vaccinations and doctored sick calves and bottle fed calves, and so it's there to be done.
We always say it's our jobs and our life. It's not, we don't come home at 5 o'clock and it's the end. It's our circle of friends, it's our life, it's our livelihood. We're immersed in agriculture wherever we go.